All right, we're gonna call the October 17th meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Hackett. Here. Mr. Murray. Here. Mr. Miller. Here. Mrs. Keeper.
Here, this time we'll do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, does anyone desire to add, delete, or separate any items of the consent agenda as proposed? All right, I need a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented for the regular board meeting on October 17th, 2022.
So moved. Support.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Hackett. Yes. Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper.
Yes, motion carried. At this time, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on September 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Roll call.
Mr. Hackett.
Yes.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mr. Miller. Yes. Mrs. Keeper.
Yes, motion carries. At this time, is there any board members with correspondence? Mr. Carroll? Mr. Smola?
So I have received 4 letters of resignation. Pat Adamski, effective May 31st. Chris Beck, effective May 31st. Carrie Brown, letter of resignation effective October 28th. And Don Spradlin, also effective October 28th.
All right, Mr. Smola, would you continue recognizing our guests and visitors?
Some guests with us, can you please just introduce yourself?
Sir. Lucas Burkholder.
Sherry Brown?
Brady Roofer.
Laura Swiper?
Tony Doble.
Jenny Conran? Christy Schmidlin? Christy Davis?
They do not promote.
Aaron Johnson, Brooklyn Owens, Brooks and Delaney, Travis Young, Courtney Robertson. Jessica Rube.
Thank you all very much. We do have a presenter for the board, however, she is coming from Defiance, so we're gonna move her down to the discussion end. Hopefully she'll be here by then, and we can go over her presentation at that point. So we will continue on with Mr. Carroll's financial reports.
Thank you. You have September 2022 financial reports in front of you. First one's cash reconciliation form. The financial summary by fund. We have the cash summary report, which is the balance in each of our funds that we have. The disbursement summary, these are the checks that we issued during the month of September. And the report on the back is the general fund and our cash balance. Also our revenue and expenses compared to the May forecast. We are 25% of the way through the school year. We are right in line as we stand for most of our expenses. One that I wanted to just kind of highlight a little bit are what we've spent in fuel so far this year. Typically for diesel fuel, we get our tanks filled 3 times a year. Last year, we spent just under $63,000 in diesel fuel. In the month of September, we got our first fill, and that was $33,000. So rounded up, we're almost at $34,000 compared to spending $63,000 last year. So just kind of planning ahead a little bit. We get filled 3 times, we're just under $100,000. So we're kind of just seeing how that plays out, but that is what we can predict at this point. On the back of that graph is the general fund payroll and benefits. Again, we've spent 25% on payroll so far, what we predicted on the forecast, and we're at 24% for benefits right now. Those are the reports that I have. If there's any questions?
Does the diesel come on anymore? Yeah, right.
This year it is Alliance.
Who's up there?
That's
The name we had bid it out and they had the best price.
yeah.
Anyways.
Right, yeah, we bid this out every year. And they're usually pretty close. Lions, that would be for propane. So,
Any further questions for Mr. Carroll? All right, we'll continue on with the financial section of the agenda. It is recommended that we approve the following financial items. To approve the September 2022 financial report we just covered with Mr. Carroll. To accept the following donations, $100 anonymous donation to the Student Assistance Fund, a $250 gift card from Harbor Freight for FFA supplies. We need to approve the following grants for the 22-23 school year. Students for other students, the SOS program for $7,500. We also need to approve an auxiliary service agreement with the Educational Service Center of Lake Erie West for the 22-23 school year in the amount of $89,444.40 for auxiliary service personnel for the benefit of Holy Trinity Schools, and to amend resources and modify appropriations accordingly. At this time, I just need a motion to approve financial reports and other financial items.
So moved. Support.
Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Beckett?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper?
Yes, motion carried. At this time, we'll move on to personnel. We need to offer the following supplemental contracts and approve volunteers for 22-23 pending the completion of all people activity permit requirements. Adam Bleckler, a half contract for wrestling. Kyle Keller, wrestling half contract. Lorenzo Mendez, assistant wrestling volunteer. Kevin Knight, assistant bowling volunteer. Skylee Raker, assistant softball volunteer. Emma Vaculek for assistant wrestling volunteer. We need to approve the following high school and middle school paid and or volunteer event workers for the 22-23 school year. Rusty Carr and Matt Simbolin. We need to approve Tammy Knopfsinger and Melody Yoder for approved additional hours at the contracted rate for time spent in selecting new staff members for the 22-23 school year. We need to accept the resignation of Kat Adamski, Evergreen High School teacher. Mrs. Adamski's resignation will become effective on May 31st of 23. Mrs. Adamski's service to our students and the school will be missed. We need to accept the resignation of Chris Beck, Evergreen Elementary teacher. Mr. Beck's resignation will become effective on May 31st of 2023. Mr. Beck's service to our students in school will be missed. We also need to accept the resignation of Carrie Brown, transportation coordinator, effective October 28th of 2022, as well as accepting the resignation of Dawn Spradlin, bus driver and cashier, effective October 28th of 2022. We need to offer Dawn Spradlin a one-year limited, non-teaching, non-bargaining unit contract as transportation coordinator, commencing on October 31st of 2022 at an initial salary of $38,750. At this time, I just need a motion to approve the above listed personnel positions.
Move.
Any questions or discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Beckett?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper?
Yes, motion carries. At this time, we'll move into other business. We need a motion to approve the granting of a high school diploma to Tyler Sack. Mr. Sack has met all graduation requirements as determined by the high school principal.
So moved. Support.
Question or discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Beckett?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper?
Yes, motion carries. This time, we need to adopt service agreement with New Horizons Academy at Sarah's Garden to provide educational services to a special education student for the 22-23 school year at a cost of $15,750 per semester.
So moved. Support.
Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Beckett?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper?
Yes, motion carries. This time, we need a motion to approve the disposal of obsolete smart boards at Holy Trinity Catholic School. This equipment was purchased with grant funds in fiscal year 09 and are no longer of any value.
So moved. Support.
Questions or discussion?
I guess I'm just confused. Are we giving the smart boards to Holy Trinity or they're at Holy Trinity?
They purchased them in fiscal year 09. And after a certain point, they're obsolete.
Right. Okay. That's fine.
Roll call.
Mr. Beckett?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper?
Yes, motion carries. All right, at this time, Mr. Small, would you like to take over discussion and information?
Sure, income tax renewal, tax renewal committee led by Mr. Hansel has made yard signs available to those who would like them. There are still signs available and anyone can contact Mr. Hansel to pick one up. If they'd like to put them in their yard. Mr. Carroll and I have been holding community conversation meetings throughout the district to answer any questions people have about the district in general or the income tax renewal levy. Turnout has been light at the first two meetings we've had. The next meeting is on Wednesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. at the Metamora Library. Any questions on where we stand with the levy?
And seeing a bunch of signs of it, so. They're all in the office, I mean, if more people want them.
Yes, we have them. Mr. Hansel has a batch and they're here at the middle school. For the past year, the administration and staff have been working to update the Viking Compass, the district's strategic plan. A draft of the revised plan is part of the board packet for October, and we welcome community feedback on the draft. We plan to submit a final version to the board in November for approval. Once approved, the strategic plan will guide the district for the next 3 years. So I invite anyone in the community, if they've read it and have suggestions, we are open to that before we present a final version to the board.
Where would they find that? Is it just on the website?
It is on the website with the board materials.
Okay.
Would be the easiest place, yes.
Okay. Is there a way for us to put a link up? Or like,
Absolutely.
somewhere where they can just
You can
Click it,
drop that
find it.
under the what's new and the draft version of the plan.
Okay.
And the last item is where Mrs. Thomas was gonna come from the Fulton County Health Department to share with us some educational opportunities that would be related to our drug testing policy. I don't know if Mr. Roofer has anything he wants to add in there, or we can wait and see if she shows up at the end. maybe
If you
bump
want,
that.
yeah, if you want to, we can move on to reports and if that's what you guys want to do.
That would be great. Yeah, hopefully she is here before the meeting wraps up and has the opportunity to present.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to Mrs. Brown.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to give you a few items from the elementary. We had our parent-teacher conferences that went very well, with 98% of our parents attending kindergarten through fourth grade. Within our fifth grade, we had approximately 92% of our parents attend, which was also very good, along with detailed family summaries that the fifth grade teacher sent out to all of their families. I am beginning monthly check-in meetings with each grade level team, just to talk about their progress, things that they may need, how the year is going so far. Those have been very productive and I think very, very helpful. I think the team really appreciates that time to share maybe any of their needs or things that are going on within the grade level. Our student council, which has been very active and exciting to see get started. We had a meeting on October 11th to begin planning different events and activities for our staff and students. Mrs. Ziegler and Mrs. Doble have been very, very excited about getting this started, so they have a lot of events planned. So it's exciting to see that all happening. They have their first fundraiser coming up on the 23rd. So that is now on the elementary Facebook page, so you can check that out. Also, love getting into the classrooms each and every day and going to lunch to see the students. I learn about them. I learn a lot about them, but also learn a lot from them. So it's just fun getting to know them and learning more about our students. So does anyone have any questions about anything happening at the elementary? No?
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Burkholder.
Going on at the middle school here lately, we just finished up our spirit sign competition, which was a big success. The winners were Isaac Roski, Weston House, and Jacob Wright. Special thanks to the high school staff and the elementary staff because they helped us out in the voting and determining that. And a special thanks to the high school student council advisors who allowed us during their pep assembly to make our big announcement in front of all the kids. We want to give a special thanks to a bunch of area businesses that have been donating to our road program. Me and the building leadership team have been asking area businesses to donate, and so far Worthington Steel, Souders Woodworking, Sky Zone, Swanton Sports Center, Sportsway, Ace Hardware at Waseon, and Viking Pizzeria have all been very generous with donations to our program. I'd like to recognize Megan Bose. She's one of our new teachers this year, but she is our October People's Champ. She has went above and beyond her duties in our building. She's new to the building, and she's basically exemplified everything I want in a teacher. So I want to recognize her for her efforts. We did just finish up our fall sports. To highlight a few of the things, that the 7th grade volleyball team went 9-7. The 8th grade volleyball team finished second in the league, and they went 11-6. And then the 7/8th grade football team went 5-3 on the season. We had parent-teacher conferences on October 6th. We appreciate all the parents that attended that, and we want to give a special thanks to the Mini Viking Parents Club. They provided dinner for the staff that night. It was really good. I want to give congratulations to Mr. Rosen and the high school choir and middle school choir efforts. They had their fall concert previous weekend, and that was a success. And then in the day-to-day process, we have a math coach that's been coming over and working with our math department, special ed department from the Northwest Ohio Education Service Center. Mike Altman is acting as a math coach for our group. He's been really good to work with so far, and the perception from some of the teachers is that he's very helpful and very receptive to what they're doing. And then on September 20th, we had a assembly called Finding Hope, sponsored by Youth to Youth. And the guest speaker Javier Sanchez spoke to the kids about decision-making and just perception. And he's really good at dynamic speaker. He's half comedian, half presenter. And so the kids were very entertained by him. Last thing, I want to just give special thanks to Mr. Holliday, Mrs. Maddie, and Mr. Langendorfer, because they invited us down to the last 2 pep assemblies again to come down and participate at the high school. And not only the pep assemblies, but the best I've seen again since I've been at Evergreen, but they've been incorporated in the middle school each time we've been down there. So, any questions for the middle school?
I think so. Thank you, Mr. Burkholder. Mr. Rupert.
I better take my time because I gotta stall till Beth gets here, it's all on me. The week of October 3rd through the 8th, we had our homecoming. Congratulations to the class of 2024, our juniors won the first annual clash of the classes. Got a nice trophy, so shout out to them. I thought it was a pretty exciting week. Maybe ask them, maybe it's a little different, but we had pep assemblies, competitions, and then the dance went well on the 8th, so homecoming week is wrapped up for the year. On October 13th, Chris Lyons was asked to present at the ESC. They chose 4 leaders in the area who built successful programs ranging from coaches to advisors, and then obviously band director. So he spoke in front of a large group of whether they're coaches, athletic directors, principals. Did very well, represented us very well. Talked to some people afterwards and they found it very helpful. So I think that's something that needs to be recognized. Market calendars, November 14th. Students, anybody who is taking CCP or AP courses next year, we're gonna have an evening with that, plus sessions on graduation requirements, college information, other resources, prepare for career readiness as well. Ohio Means Jobs will be there. We will get more information out soon. October 31st, we're holding a blood drive, which was started by, we have newly created Red Cross Club, which is being led by Adam Smith. And my last major item is I just want to recognize Cindy Pinkelman, the administrative assistant in the counselor's office. She is doing a fabulous job without a full-time counselor. She's making that place run. I mean, she just covers a lot of things. So I think she needs to be recognized publicly for all her hard work. So that is all that I have. Any questions?
Well, thank you, Mr. Rupert. Mr. Noble.
Angela wasn't able to make it, so I do have some notes from her to share with you guys. high school transcripts have been updated to include the new course credit types. I know this has been kind of a long process for her, and she's got that completed. So with the rollover and how our courses are being done, our transcripts will now reflect that. Chromebook distribution at the high school level was much smoother with it being done the week before school. Middle school distribution also worked well with them being delivered to the students' first period classes. They just picked them up the night of open house and it went very smoothly. Angela and I are gonna be looking at how our fees and our protection plans, how we're doing on that. So we'll talk with Brian and see how much money we've taken in for that so far this year, and then maybe have future discussions how we wanna go about collecting those payments in the future. Classrooms in the middle school have been equipped with Clever Touch interactive displays, every classroom except for the art room. There are still a few high school classrooms that are utilizing older smartboards and projectors, which are scheduled to be removed within the next year or two. Exterior classrooms at the elementary are all equipped with the new Smartboard MX series. This has been about a 4-year process. The only 2 rooms, regular classrooms, are our 2 preschool rooms. They do not have the new boards. Art and music also do not have new boards. And all of our interior intervention rooms still are running the older smart boards with projectors. All of these rooms will need to be updated at some point, so I will be evaluating how that equipment works the rest of the year. If it's working, we'll probably keep trucking with it, but we probably will be replacing some next summer, hopefully. The website refresh is done. I know we already discussed that at a previous board meeting, but it is completed now. The new structure and layout for our end users should be able to find anything they want within 1 to 3 clicks. There are still a few items that need to be added. For example, I'm still working on the new staff directory so that it's mobile friendly. The one we have right now is not mobile friendly and it's kind of a nightmare. So. The Evergreen Local Schools app, I'm working right now on refreshing that. The new layout is a little bit more user friendly, and it also allows us to incorporate the rotating banner from our website. It will now be in the app as well, which is great because that's where our most current information is. There are a few issues right now with content not being displayed correctly on certain Android and Apple devices, but I am working with School Messenger to get that fixed, hopefully soon. I talked to Crystal today and she said they're working on it, so. The School Messenger app rollout did not go as expected. We have continued to receive feedback from our staff and our parents regarding the change from Remind. The app means well, but it does have its flaws. The app was supposed to, or is supposed to get a significant overhaul next summer of 2023. However, in my opinion, unless we have the ability to see this overhaul ahead of time, we may look at alternatives and possibly move away from the app. This change was recommended by myself, so I will take full responsibility for things not working quite like we thought they were going to. I did spend about 6 months evaluating the app and testing it and running it, and never did I dream of testing if we could delete a message, and you can't delete a message. So I know that there's been some frustrations with it, so my apologies. We will reevaluate as we move ahead and see what we can do for parent-teacher communication. Biggest reason we looked at this was it was going to save the district a significant amount of money, and it also addressed the issue of having too many communication tools. Since we use School Messenger for our instant alerts, our website, and our district app, we thought moving to their communication app was going to be a good fit. So as stated, we will work with administration in the future to reevaluate and see how we want to move ahead in the future. Our social media presence has really improved over the last 12 to 15 months. With the help of Jenny Conrad, our district communications director, we are posting a lot of important things now on social media. And Dylan Hendricks and Dawn Spradlin are doing a great job with the athletics, Facebook, Twitter, as well. I recently helped Mrs. Brown at the elementary get an elementary specific Facebook page started. She is posting some really awesome pictures and news from our elementary school on a daily basis, and I know our community is loving seeing all of the smiling faces and the little kids enjoying life. So it's going really well compared to even a year ago. The amount of information that we're posting, it's really good. Our automated calls for students with low to negative balances was not functioning properly for about the first 4 weeks of school. We had no idea until Don Spradlin came to me and said, I don't think anybody's getting phone calls. So I worked with School Messenger and we got the issue resolved. These calls are now going out as scheduled. And we are still waiting for the rest of our new copier fleet to be delivered. I spoke with Luke from Perry Pro back in September, and he told me the rest of our copiers would be delivered sometime this month. However, this rollout was supposed to be done Christmas break of last year, so I'm not gonna hold my breath. We'll see. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll get something. I have not heard anything since speaking with him in September. I'm working on finishing the final touches for elementary report cards. Since I've been here, we've never sent report cards home, which is 12 years. Mrs. Brown and I have had some discussion, and we are going to be sending report cards home with students moving forward. So I am working on getting the finishing touches done on designing that and making it work with our Power School Gradebook. And lastly, Angela and I have been sitting in on some NWACA security roundtables. It's a new once a month meeting with NWACA specific for security. This includes all of Northwest Ohio school districts that are in the NWACA consortium. This mainly is in regards to hardware and software connected to our network. The monthly meetings will continue, and as we move forward, our district may see some significant changes in the way we access the technology we have. We do not want to make it hard for our staff and students to access their data and the hardware they need to get that data, but education is one of the most vulnerable environments there is, so hackers are just feeding off of school districts because we just think everything's hunky-dory and we don't think anything bad can happen, but hackers have started to lean on that, and they, well, Washington Local had a huge ransomware attack. So Angela and I are looking at starting multi-factor authentication for our staff members to log into certain things. And we will probably start doing a more regular tracked inventory on the hardware that's connected to our network, including our HVAC and our security devices, because we have to open up certain ports outside of our firewall. That's how the bad guys get in. So if we have let's say we have a PC computer running the HVAC equipment for Brent, maybe he gets rid of that and we don't know it, that loophole is still in there and they can access important information. So these security meetings are lengthy, but I think it's going to be good. So we will be seeing some changes in the near future for our teachers, and we might get a little pushback, but in the end, we have to do some of this stuff to keep our district safe so that we're not having any ransomware attacks, things like that. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Doble. Mr. Small, do you want to move on to you, or do you want to move to?
If I do mind, then we can maybe finish with the discussion item.
Perfect.
I'd like to thank a local contractor who wishes to remain anonymous for donating materials and labor for the fences in front of the baseball dugouts. We thank you for your generosity in support of our athletic programs. The co-taught preschool classroom taught by Mrs. Call and Ms. Brandon will be restructured based on the continued program growth for special education referrals and the current number of children within the co-taught classroom. The co-taught classroom will be divided into 2 separate classrooms. Mrs. Call will continue teaching in the current classroom, while Ms. Brandon will have an opportunity to teach in her own classroom space. The children in the co-taught classrooms have been strategically reassigned to each classroom to continue fostering play, growing friendships among peers, and progressing forward with individual development needs of the children in our program. Parents have been notified of this adjustment, and the process for the classroom moves are happening now. The new classroom is being organized and prepared and should be up and running by November 1st. So getting everything ready for split of those two rooms. We continue to evaluate and plan for a transition of the 5th grade to Evergreen Middle School. We're developing a plan for this move for the 23-24 school year. Once we have the details in place, we will present the plan to the board for your approval. I expect to have everything to be in a structured format for your review in November and then seek board approval in December. And as we wrap up the first quarter of the school year this week, I want to thank all of our teachers, staff, and administrators for their hard work, positive attitude, and flexibility this school year. The school spirit and constructive approach this year is noticeable throughout the district. Very positive vibe in all of the buildings. So I want to thank everybody for their work to have us off to a great start. Any questions?
Thank you. All right. So we're gonna jump back and we're gonna have Beth Thomas from the Fulton County Health Department present to us.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Beth Thomas. I'm the Program Director of Healthy Choices Caring Communities, which is a community coalition that's embedded within the Fulton County Health Department. And we've been working for about 15 years to address the issue of underage substance use. So, in speaking with Mr. Rupert, he asked me to come and talk a little bit about the investment that you guys are interested in making in your students. So it's my understanding that one of the things that you guys have looked at is the idea of drug testing. Drug testing is something that certainly has been a strategy to address substance use. And I would say back in the earlier 2000s, it was fairly common. There were several districts throughout the county that used that as a strategy. What I want to encourage you guys to think about is, while I think the idea of preventing substance use is an incredibly important one and something worth investing in, I think it's important to think maybe broader. So we are trained through CADCO, which is a National Association of Coalitions, and the science shows that building a comprehensive plan, even if you're unable to actually implement every single step of that plan initially, is really the key to having solid prevention in your schools or in your community. It doesn't have to be just restricted to schools. And I would propose developing a comprehensive plan would not only help address substance use, but look at mental health challenges as well. So as I told Brady, I really wanted this to be a conversation. I'm here, I have received a ton of training, I have a lot of knowledge, but it's your school, it's your community, you know what best works for your community. So I don't know at this point if you have questions for me, or if there's things you want me to kind of step through. I'm not really sure exactly what's the best approach.
I can lead off with.
Sure.
Maybe that'll help inform it. You said a comprehensive plan, of which it sounds like you've got drug testing as a component of that plan, mental health, I guess, awareness or education as part of that plan. What else goes into the mix?
So potentially, personally, I wouldn't put drug testing at the top of the list. And the reasons for that are just our experience that there's this research. I had one of our epidemiologists pull some of that research. It's inconclusive. There's people that think it's a good strategy. There's people that think it's not a good strategy. But my experience has been perception is reality. So what we've persistently heard across districts, not just from Evergreen, is that students or parents or the community did not feel the selection was random, that certain kids were pulled multiple times for the drug testing. We heard anecdotally a lot of stories of urine being purchased from other kids to be used for the drug testing. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's the perception. It was the perception in the community. We heard that persistently. People would call and tell us, did you know this is happening? And we shared that information with the districts as it was appropriate. Again, knowing that that's just the perception doesn't mean it's reality. So I can't say that's what you should do or what you shouldn't do, but if it was my school and I was building the program, CADCO looks at 7 different layers of what they call community change. If you think of it as a pyramid, we start at the top with providing information. And then it goes all the way down to policy change. As you go down the pyramid, you're going to get more effective in your approach. Providing information is always a good strategy. People need to know and therefore, in theory, do better. But as I always use for an example is, what is the speed limit in our country? You know, on the average road out here, what's the speed limit? It's 55, right? And how, raise your hand if you've ever driven faster than 55, right? Okay, so my hands up in the air. Information in and of itself does not change behavior, okay? So it's good to have that information. The second thing we need to do is what we call build skills, which means have to improve people's ability to do that something. So for example, we might start with providing education and helping our staff, our students, and our parents, community adults, understand what substance use looks like in our community. What does mental health look like in our community for young people? Then the second step would be about building skills on that. We might teach young people positive coping strategies because we know that mental health is often connected to substance use. Many of our young people, particularly when it comes to vaping, are using vaping products as a way to self-medicate against depression, stress, and anxiety. Okay, so we want to build skills. Another area we might want to build skills is helping teachers or staff recognize potential signs and symptoms of substance use or mental health challenges. We want to build parents' skills in having conversations with your young people. Parents are actually our #1 influence when it comes to young people, and as a parent myself, I kind of shake my head at that, because sometimes it seems like they're just rolling their eyes at us, but they really are listening to us, and yet the majority of our parents are not having conversations with their young people about the dangers of substance. So that would fall potentially into building skills or enhancing skills. Then another piece is about providing support. So that might be providing support for people who are struggling with mental health challenges or substance use. It may be helping them engage in programs that have positive reinforcement that are what we call protective factors to help decrease their risk. And some of those examples may be programs like our BOSS program that's currently implemented here at Evergreen, the DARE program, which I believe is also implemented here at Evergreen, our ROCKS program, which we did lose funding for, but that would be another excellent example. I don't know if you guys engage in SOS or Signs of Suicide. Our YAP program, which is a countywide program, community-based, but we have a large component of Evergreen students, high school students that are involved in that. You might have a SAD program, you might do some mental health check-ins. That's something that's commonly done in classrooms. Those are some examples of providing support. The next kind of bucket as we go down that pyramid is about enhancing access or reducing barriers. So you're thinking about how young people access the supports that are available to them. Maybe they don't know about them. Maybe they don't know how you access them. Maybe they don't know whether they're eligible for those systems. There may be things in here for staff morale. We know that the last couple of years have been difficult, not only for our young people, but for adults as well. So there may be things about your employee assistance program or some sort of support through your medical insurance that maybe your staff is not aware of or not sure how to access that. At the community level, you might be looking at your booster clubs. I know you guys have a very large band or music booster program, probably an athletic booster program as well. Then we are moving into, and I'm sorry, that would fall into providing support. Then looking at enhancing access and reducing barriers. Again, providing the resources in our community. One of the things we found out during COVID that our community members don't always know where to go. Where do you find out if I need help with my groceries or I need help with my utility bills? Where's a clearinghouse for some of that information? The next layer is on incentives and what we call de-incentives. So we want to reinforce positive behavior, potentially have negative consequences for negative behavior. You guys might look at your PBIS programs. We do what's called community conversations, and one of the ways we get kids to bring their parents to participate in those programs is offer some sort of incentive to the kids. So we want to find out where are the barriers, why are people unable to access the information or skill set or whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish, and how can we improve that? The next one is on physical design, and this may be coming into, like, if you find out young people are vaping in your restrooms, for example, thinking about how you can change the physical design to make that less likely to occur. That's just a off the top of my head kind of example for that. The last thing is to look at policy. One of the examples I always use for this is we have known since probably the 50s or 60s that tobacco use was bad for our health. Okay, unfortunately, in and of itself, we did not see a lot of change in people's use of tobacco until probably 20 years ago now. We passed Smoke-Free Ohio, and it started to become illegal to use tobacco products in workplaces or in public spaces. we started to see significant decrease around tobacco use in those sort of settings. So one of the things you might look at is your policies. Sometimes it's not even about the policy, it's about the enforcement of that policy. It may be about the procedures that are connected to that policy. So one of the things that we see in many schools, if a young person is caught with a substance, there's a punishment to that. Okay, I understand that the rationale for that, but we would also encourage you to maybe build a more comprehensive reaction to that and build in some education and some screenings and things like that. So we know if the young person has an undiagnosed mental health or substance use disorder, that they're getting the appropriate education and referral to address that issue, which then over time will hopefully decrease, the use of the substance that they may be engaging in. So that kind of gives you the framework of how I think about a comprehensive plan. So I'm sure as a board member or administrator, you're thinking, oh my gosh, how in the next whatever period of time can we get all these things in place? What I'm recommending is build a plan and then start taking off the chunks. Maybe this is the one thing you think, we often look for what we call low-hanging fruit. So find something you can accomplish quickly that's within your capacity financially, staff-wise, and get that engaged. And then when you get a positive response to that, then you can continue to build. You might build up a plan that's 5, 7, 10 years in the making, but you just keep adding pieces and pieces as it's appropriate for your schools, it's appropriate for your budget, or whatever it might be. Okay, does that help give you a very long-winded answer to the question you had, Mr.
Yeah,
Murray?
no, I appreciate that. And just by way of background, ma'am, we've been chewing on this particular problem for more than a year.
I'm sure you
At
have.
this point, so.
It's a complicated problem.
It is, and one of the concerns that we've been running up against, and so I'm gonna point you to some of the data points
Sure.
and some of the literature. I think one of the things that we've been struggling with as a board is I understand the literature out there says, hey, drug testing doesn't necessarily decrease the desire to do drugs,
Mhm.
right? And that's ultimately what we want.
Sure.
That's our end goal, is we don't want students to take drugs.
Sure.
Right? But there is some data points that suggest that having these sort of co-curricular, extracurricular type drug testing things do decrease active use, at least during the period that they're being tested.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the tension is, I mean, we're trying to build a better mousetrap,
Sure.
okay? But the mousetrap that we have right now still kind of works, right?
Sure.
So do we keep that in place or do we scrap that entirely? And that is what, I mean, we spent an awful lot of board time and board resources trying to answer that question.
Sure.
And so any insight you can have, because your comprehensive plan, I noted, you didn't mention drug testing at all in that. And so maybe expand on that a little bit.
Sure. Again, it's probably a personal opinion. What I guess I would, the question I would ask is, instead of doing drug testing, can you accomplish the same thing by building culture within your athletic programs? Because that's the other thing is drug testing isn't able to be applied to every single student, only those that are involved in certain activities. So can you create that same culture by training your athletic staff that no student use is the only acceptable path? Okay, so I know just from anecdotal stories that, again, not saying Evergreen District specifically, but there are communities, there are districts that coaches tolerate substance use, potentially even encourage substance use in some particular sports programs. And so I think I optimistically believe you can build a culture in which no use is acceptable by young people, that is a culture you can build. And I think you can accomplish the same thing can be potentially across your entire district without using drug testing. Because the problems that I've talked about, if the perception of drug testing is it's not a fair program, that it's not, that kids are hand chosen because they're less likely to test positive. And the other piece of this, I would be really curious if any attempt has been made to have some discussions with your staff, not only your staff, but with your young people. One of the things I'm always amazed as adults, we create systems for kids, but we don't ask kids. I'm always surprised. I see a lot of young people here tonight. I'm always surprised when I ask young people, what do you see in your schools, the responses I get. And sometimes as an adult, I step over that and I forget to ask. You guys are experts on what it's like to be a young person here at Evergreen District, okay? I don't even live in the district. I'm certainly not a young person. Okay, so I would encourage you to think about that and get some input from your young people of what they might see as the potential solutions. Because my experiences with our YAC program, I guarantee those 40 kids will come up with any idea that's 100 zillion% better than anything else adults could come up with. So that would just be a curiosity question for you guys. If you have not sought out some opinions from your young people, that might be something else to consider.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have further questions or ideas or? No?
Just, we have been working on with Beth, and it's kind of carries over from our meeting that we had, taking what we're doing currently, how are we supporting mental health, those services, and we have a framework what Beth talked about, so. And meeting with like SAD advisors and different groups to try and, how can we expand? I know Mrs. Brown and Mr. Burkholder, we've all met, kind of, what do we as principals want to see in our buildings to help achieve this? So we're continuing to work with it.
And one piece we're trying to make sure that school boards and administrators are aware of is House Bill 123. It is called SAVE with a V, Save the Students Act. It's already been implemented and there's different layers to that. But one of the layers that will go into effect with the 23-24 school year is a requirement that through 6th through 12th grade, every single student has to have an hour of prevention in prevention violence, suicide prevention, and what they're calling inclusion. So we're just making sure that school boards and administrators are aware of that because that is going to need to be a piece of this. I don't know, unfortunately, it's an unfunded mandate. I don't know how that's all going to roll out, but it's past legislation that will be a requirement and an expectation from the Ohio Department of Education. And I think that piece can easily be built into your comprehensive program if that's the direction that you guys decide to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Brady alluded to Dolores, Brady and I, as well as our counselors met, and we have started, looking at mental health and how we're going to roll that out. Do you guys want to say anything about it?
So we, with the counselors, so we kind of gave tasks everyone to do. Brady and I have met a couple of times too, as far as how can we blend the two. And it's very doable. So it's like now we're working on some of the fine details before we presented them to the building principals. Like I said, we've got the counselors involved as well.
So we've already got a pretty good framework on this. For myself, I'm not comfortable taking away drug testing. I'm all for adding these extra resources, but we have a policy in place right now. And we've talked about the perception. So for me, I'd like to add the mental health and the education, but keep what policies we have in place. So if you guys have any thoughts or?
I agree with you.
I think there's no need to reinvent the wheel at this point. That's what we've been working on. So, yeah, I'm not.
I'd love in the future that, if that is the case and it's something that we can get rid of, awesome. But at this time, I think as we're working through and battling through the process, I don't think it's something I'm comfortable with getting rid of yet. So, any further questions or discussion on the topic? Mr. Rickens? No?
I don't think at this point we're even asking to get rid of the policy.
Yeah.
It's just letting you know that we are building a framework and there's a potential alternative down the road that may eliminate the need for it, hopefully, and becomes a non-issue, so.
All right. Is there any further questions or concerns from board members?
What about the lockers and the girls' locker?
We have a delivery date for the end of this month and they will be here the first week of November doing the install.
So it should be up and running for.
By the end of the first, yes, by the end of the first week, I got a confirmation email on Friday, I believe it was. And from Midwest, and they will be here when the lockers get delivered and be here to greet the installers.
We do.
Yeah, fine.
Any further questions? No? All right, so at this time, we just need a motion to adjourn the October 17th, 2022 regular meeting. Roll call?
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Keeper?
Yes, motion carries. At this time, any kids who